Good day, professionals. Welcome to the International College of Safety and Management Professionals. You are welcome to our project management class. My name is Dr. Adetayo Yurioluwa. I will be taking you through the project management professional class PMP. In ICSMP, we dish it as professional as it should. And that is why we are the #1 postgraduate college, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. And this afternoon, I will be taking you through the necessary details you should know as far as project management is concerned. Project management. Of course, to a layman, when you hear the word project, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind could range from building of bridges, drainages, and anything that has to do with building at all. But the scope of project management transcends that. Now, before we go deeper, let me give you some points, some things you should know, some preliminaries you should understand as far as project management is concerned. Have one thing at the back of your mind. The end result of every project is a product. It means every project will give birth to a product. Now, it then means that at the back of the mind of every project manager, he has a product in mind. It means there's an expectation, there's something he or she is looking out for. It means there is a specification, there is a dimension he or she is looking out for. Now, we will not be limiting our scope, the scope of this lecture, to building alone, as we have project managers in multinationals, in firms who are not even into construction at all. Because many believe that when you are talking of project management, then all you are talking about is building. Let me give you an example. Take a look at this marker pen with me. This marker pen is a product, and it is a result of a projectized processes. It means some persons must have put together some parameters, some skill, some resources together, and at the end of the day, they are getting this marker. That makes it a product, a result of a projectized process. So we can then say that the process of manufacturing this marker pen is a projectized process. But before we start talking about other preliminaries, what then is a project? What is a project? I will define a project as a temporal endeavor. Don't be carried away. Temporal endeavor. Temporal endeavor is a temporal endeavor undertaken by a person or group of persons to create a unique product, services, or result. A temporal endeavor undertaken by a person or group of persons to create a unique product. Three things are gotten at the end of a projectized process: a product, a service, or result. You will now agree with me that it is then myopic to assume or to agree that project management or project is all about building alone. Of course, buildings, constructions are part of it, and they take a good number of it, fine. But at the end of this definition, we have a product, we have a service, and we have a result. That's to tell you that even services are end results of a project. Do you understand? All right. Now, let's break down that definition into smaller particles. Like we said a project is a temporal endeavor. Now, in an interview, you may be asked to comment on the temporal endeavor nature of a project. Why is a project a temporal endeavor? Number one, a project is a temporal endeavor because it has a starting time and finishing time. It has a time frame. It has a delivery time. You cannot just undergo a project and say this project will be for life. In fact, life itself is a project. A day we were born, a day we will die. That makes life a project. So it then means that everything that happens within the circumvention of a project is as it must have a specific time. So you cannot just go into a project and say, yes, this project I can finish it when I like. I can end it when I like. It can end anytime. No, it cannot end anytime. It is time bound. It is bounded with time. Do you understand? All right. However, we can then proceed to note that apart from it being a temporal endeavor, there is a need for it. There is a need. There is a need for it. There is a need for a project. That is the second point. Number one, don't forget the first point. Don't forget the first point. The first point says it is time bound. It has a starting time and a finishing time. That is what it is. Temporal endeavor. Then number two, there is a need for that project. Now let me explain the number two as I've explained the number one. Let me explain the number two. Now the number two, the temporal endeavor nature for that number two means that there is a need for it. I used the marker pen as an example the other time. If this marker pen, if it is still under production, will I be able to use it? The answer is no. But because it is a temporal endeavor, it has a starting time and a finishing time. Then it was rolled into the market. Then I can buy it. If it does not satisfy or fulfill the law of a project, which makes it to have a starting time and a finishing time, it means I will not be able to use it. This house we have, if it is not a project, it means we will not be here. But because it has a starting and finishing time, that is why we can be here. If the school, the university you went to, if it is not a temporal endeavor, then they will not tell you your course will be for 4 years. As you are getting into, it is a project. Is that not? It is a project because they will tell you your course of study runs for 4 years. Your course of study runs for 5 years. Therefore, even you getting admission into university from the beginning to the end is still a what? It is still a project. So that is to tell you that project management is not all about I read civic engineering, I read engineering course. No, all organizations, they are into project. As long as they are producing a product, as long as a product is coming from that organization, then they are into project. That's why you have project officers in organizations. Why? They help to put resources together to achieve the expectation of the organization. Now, let's go further. Now, we've known what a project is now. We've been able to establish that a project is a temporal endeavor undertaken by a person or group of persons to create a unique product, services, or result. We've been able to establish that. Now, professionally, let's now differentiate between product, services, and result. Product, services, and result. Product, we have product, we have service, we have result. Now, let's pick service first of all. As I am teaching you now, as you are watching me now, I'm teaching you. It's a service. I'm running a service. And this teaching will not be forever. You are paying for it. Either you like it or not. And the lecture will end. Either you like it or not. And at the end of the day, you have an expectation. It means you must derive satisfaction from my service. It means if, as I'm lecturing, and you do not understand what I'm dishing out, it means the output is deficient. Peradventure I've not prepared well, peradventure I don't even know what I'm saying, then it means the service may not be acceptable. But once you could pick one or two things from what I've said, it means I have delivered. and the lecture will end, which makes it a product, a project, because it has a starting time and a finish time, and satisfaction is derived. The same satisfaction you will derive from Coca-Cola is the same satisfaction you derive from my lecture, because when you went to buy Coca-Cola, you had an expectation and you got it. When you switch on your data to watch the video, you had an expectation, and I'm giving you the expectation. Do you understand? So that is that about service. The same service, the banking service, the telecommunications services, all of them, we have project officers there. And what are the duties of these project officers? To make sure that the services meets the need of the end users. Do you understand? So that is that about service. Now let's lay more emphasis on product and result. Product and result. Now grammatically, if I begin to ask you, what are services, what are product, what are results, there will be different description about what it is. Now let me use a Coca-Cola can as an example for you. Give me that Coca-Cola bottle so that I will use it as an example for you. Oh wow, this is shield. This is shield. I think for the purpose of this lecture, let me all right, the explanation will continue now. All right, now take a look at this bottle. Take a look at this Coca-Cola bottle. I want to use this bottle to explain product and service. Product and result. Product and result. Now, the Coca-Cola in its entirety, like this bottle now, in its entirety is a product. Why? Because it is ready for consumption. But when we are talking of result is talking about the accumulation of sub-products coming together to form a product. Now, it may surprise you that this label, take for example, you want to buy this Coca-Cola. You go to where you want to buy, say I want to buy Coca-Cola, and they gave you this without label. Will you accept it as Coca-Cola? You will not. You say, no, this is not Coca-Cola. This may be anything. This may be concussion. This may be agbo. It may be anything at all. So you say, I don't know what is here. Why? Because the label is not there. As insignificant as you may think this label is, it constitutes its own impact on the entire product. Do you understand? Now, the organization or the firm or the printing press producing this Coca-Cola label, this is not a product now. You cannot call this a product because it does not give satisfaction on its own. It relies on other parameters to give what? Satisfaction. So it is leaving that company as a result. The same way, you want to buy this and they say, take the bottle. Take the bottle. We didn't see the cover. We'll give you cover later. You'll be like, no cover. As small as the cost of this cover in all may not be up to 20 naira. But the value of this cover plays an important role in the product. Therefore, you cannot then say that this cover is a product. So it is a result that relies on other results coming together to form a product. So we can then say professionally that product equals results plus results, depending on the numbers of results that needs to come together before before you have the product per se. Please, you can return it for me. Thank you. All right, so now let's continue. Now we've only talked about projects now, and we discussed the end result of a project. Now, what is now project management? We've only defined project. What is now project management? Project management is now the synchronization of skills, of knowledge, of information, of expertise coming together, to put a project in place. Project management is now the skill, is the knowledge, is the technical know-how, is the required information you now need to make sure that a project is successful, to make sure that at the end of the day you are giving a product that will satisfy the end user. That is what project management is all about. Now, before I start digging deep and deeper into project management, let's quickly talk about some concepts. We have project management, we have program, and we have portfolio. We have project, we have program, and we have portfolio management. Now the three differs. There are three different. You may just be asked. Someone may just ask you, project manager, what is the difference between project, program, and portfolio? Now, a project, I already told you what a project is and what project management is. Undergoing just a project. A project. Now, we are not talking of a program. We are now talking about a project manager undergoing two similar projects for strategic objective. Undergoing two similar what? Projects for strategic objective. Let's say, for example, you are building a 4-bedroom flat in Lagos State, and you want to make another 4-bedroom flat in Ogun State, and you are still carrying out another 5-bedroom flat in Osun State. You are still carrying out another 10 market store in Ondo State. You are in charge. If you look at those projects, you will see that they are similar projects because they all deal with construction, and you are now in charge. At that moment, you are no longer a project manager. Are we together? You are no longer what? A project manager. By then, you are now a program manager, because what you are doing is now more than one project, but they are similar. They are the same. For strategic objective, you can use the idea of one to carry out the other. You can use, okay, if I can use one bag of cement for 200 blocks here, it means I will still need, like, even if it is in Lagos anyway, I will still need one bag of cement. You only have a little plus or minus, all things being equal. Do you understand? So the same thing you will use all across. Why? Because it is similar project. But if we are now talking of portfolio, let's say, for example, you are in charge of building of those flats across the country, and you are still asked to erect solar in different locations in the country, and you are still asked to dig borehole, to make borehole, pipe-borne water for people in some locations again, and you are still asked to supply computer system to teachers in Lagos State, and you are asked to do that. At the end of the day, what you are doing is no longer program. By then, you are now a portfolio manager. And what's the difference of portfolio manager? When you have similar and non-similar projects that are similar and projects that are not similar, when you are undergoing it at the same time, by then you are no longer a project or a program manager. You are then a portfolio manager. So you should be able to differentiate between project, program, and portfolio. So those are the differences between them. Now let's continue. Now we want to look into the next topic now, and we are going deeper into project management now. And under this course, we have three major papers. We have PMP 601. Don't forget, at the end of your training with us, you are getting a postgraduate diploma certificate in project management and construction. You are getting another certificate in contract management and facility management, and you are getting a third certificate as an associate of the International Charter for Project Management, that is ACIPM, at the end of the day. And all our certificates are accredited and recognized by reputable professional bodies. So now, let's continue in the lecture. Now we have 4 major success pathways in project management. 4 major success pathways in project management. Yes, for you to be a successful project manager, then there are some areas you must have knowledge at. There are some things you must know. There are some things you must have understanding of. And that is what we will be looking into in a couple of minutes. Now, we have 1. We have and 4 major project constraints. We have 10 knowledge areas. We have 47 logical processes. We have 5 process groups. And we have 4 major project constraints. These are the 4 success pathways we have in project management. So once you know this, you must know this even when they wake you early in bed, midnight, you must be able to say this. That we have 10 knowledge areas, we have 47 logical processes, we have 5 process groups, and we have 4 major project constraints. You should be aware of this at any point in time. Now, let's now take them one after the other. Let's take them one after the other. So the first one we'll be talking about is the 10 knowledge areas. What do you understand by knowledge areas in project management? Knowledge areas means areas of expertise. Like the name implies, knowledge areas. It means areas you must be knowledgeable at, areas you must be skilled at, areas you must be an expertise at before they can now call their yes, this person is a project manager. And these areas, we have 10 of them, and we have 47 logical processes. What are logical processes? Processes are series of interrelated events to achieve a knowledge area. It means these 10 knowledge areas, they are not automatic. You need to pass through some steps to achieve them. So these 47 logical processes, they are unevenly distributed across the 10 knowledge areas. I repeat, the 47 logical processes are unevenly distributed across the 10 knowledge areas. You will get it more and more as the class progresses. And we have 5 process groups. The 47 logical processes are further grouped into 5. And we have 4 major project constraints. That is, when you are given a project, what are the major constraints that will come to your heart? What are the major challenges you may face? And how do you manage and get out of these challenges? All right, so let's take it one after the other so that we can understand it better. So, and don't forget, in the course of my discussion, you will have a take home that there is a relationship between knowledge areas and logical processes, and there's a relationship between logical processes and process group. And you must understand these processes. And what are the processes? What are the relationship? The relationship is this. I said it, that these 47 logical processes are unevenly distributed across the 10 knowledge areas, and these 47 logical processes are further grouped into 5, which gives us the 5 process groups. And we'll be talking about the major constraints as the lecture progresses. Now, for the sake of this lecture, knowledge areas, I'll be calling knowledge areas KA. I said we have 10 knowledge areas. So the knowledge areas will be termed KA. So let's list the 10 knowledge areas. We have project integration management, management is MGT. Project scope management. It means here we have project management. You understand? You understand the sign? Project scope management because of our time. Okay. So we have project time management. We have project quality management. We have project scale. Okay, sorry. We have project resource management. We have project procurement management. Okay, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 to go. We have project risk management. We have project integration, scope, time, quality, resource, procurement, risk, cost management. Okay, we have project stakeholders management. We have project communication management. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, here we are. These are the 10 knowledge areas. It means if you are a project manager, it means you must be an integration manager. It means you must be a scope manager. It means you must be a time manager. It means you must be a quality manager. It means you must be a resource manager. It means you must be a procurement manager. It means you must be a risk manager. It means you must be a cost manager. It means you must be a stakeholder and communication. Now tell me, which organization will not be into one or more of these? Is there any organization that will not be into scope, into time, into quality, into resource, into procurement, into risk management, into cost management, stakeholders and communication? All these are essential to bring about a wonderful and acceptable product at the end of the day. So as a project manager, you are going to be trained in all of this. Now let's now look at the relationship between knowledge areas and logical processes. Don't forget, I told you, I said we have 47 logical processes. Now how does the relationship now comes in? Now before you achieve integration management, when we are talking of integration, we are talking of amalgamation, we are talking of synchronization, addition, bringing together. That is integration. Now what does integration do? Integration as a knowledge area makes sure that as a project manager you have all these skills. That is what it does. It is the father of all of them. It brings them together. That as a project manager you must not miss any of them, because all these 9, the rest of the 9, they are competing requirements. They compete for attention, and once you miss any of them in a project, the project may not be successful if you miss any of them in a project. So it is integration that will now teach you how to effectively synchronize and bring together all of them. So it brings all the skills into you to make sure that yes, at the end of the day you are not missing out any of them. So project integration management is that knowledge area that synchronizes and amalgamates the rest of the 9 knowledge areas. And the rest of the 9 knowledge areas, we call them competing requirements, because they are competing and you must not miss any of them. And as you are planning for scope, time will be telling you, hey, Mr. Time, don't forget me. Quality will be telling you, don't forget me. If you don't plan for me, you know what it means. Resource will be telling you, you need resources to plan this project. The procurement will be telling you, are you sure you are buying the right thing from the right place? Risk will tell you, have you planned for the positive and negative risk attached to this project? Cost will tell you, are you still within cost baseline? Stakeholders will tell you, have you informed those that needs to be informed? Communication will ask you, have you communicated effectively with those that are part of this project, the team members, the project sponsors, and all those who are directly or indirectly involved with the project? So that makes them competing requirements. Okay, let's continue. Now, having known this and having known that, we can then understand that these 47 logical processes are unevenly distributed. It means for you to achieve project integration management, there are steps you must follow. There are what? There are steps you must follow. For you to achieve scope management, there are steps you must follow. For you to achieve project time, there are steps you must follow. So when we now add all those steps you must follow, when we now add them together, it now gives you 47. So that's why we said we have 10 knowledge areas and 47 logical processes. Let's quickly see if we can get how it goes. Project integration has 6, scope has 6, time has 7, quality has 3, resource has 4, procurement has 4, risk has 6, cost has 4, stakeholders has 4, communication has 3. And that means 6 processes, 6 steps to achieve integration, 6 steps to achieve scope, 7 steps to achieve time, 3 steps to achieve quality. So when you add all of them together at the end of the day, that's how we got our 47 logical processes. Do you understand? All right. Let's proceed. Now, let's now go into process groups. We are talking about the relationship now. We want to look at the relationship now between processes and process groups. But before we look into that, let's first list the process groups. Like I said, we have 5 process groups. And the 5 process groups are initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and controlling, and we have closing. Now, these are the 5 process groups. Now, let's take them one after the other. Initiation, when the idea of the project is conceived. Planning, when you start putting in parameters you need to achieve the success in the project. You have execution, when you are not doing the work. Monitoring and controlling, check and balances. Closing, end of the project. Okay, now how does it now relate with the 47 logical processes? Now these 47 logical processes, they are further grouped into 5. Now, depending on what is happening in that process will tell us which process group it will belong to. Now, take your manual, open your manual to page. You have it on your phone. You also have it as soft copy. You can just open it to page. Go to page 13. Go to page 13 of your manual. If you go to page 13 of your manual, you see something there. Let me zoom it for you well so you can see it. Let me zoom it for you so you can see it. Let me zoom it for you so you can see it very well. Let me zoom it. I want you to see it very well. That's why I'm zooming it for you. Now, if you check here, you discover that we have knowledge areas here. See the knowledge areas. I'll be using this to explain alone. So we are done with that explanation. Once I explain with this, then we go straight into the constraints. Okay? All right. Now, take a look at the knowledge areas here. We have all the knowledge areas here. Look at the process groups. Now, inside here, don't forget, each knowledge area has its own processes. Don't forget, I told you project integration has 6 processes. Develop project charter, this, and this, making 6. Do you understand? Making 6. Now, each of that 6 now falls to a particular process group, depending on what is happening in that particular process group. The same thing with scope management. These are the processes. 6 processes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they fall under respective. This is the space. This is the column for process groups. So the processes now fall under their respective process groups. So you see that there are some. So under initiation now, under initiation or initiating, we then have two processes under initiating process group. 1, 2. Under planning, we have most processes under planning process group. You know, I told you initiating, planning. So we have planning under it. We have planning, schedule, everything, we have it under it. So that is to tell you that processes, that's to tell you that processes are grouped, okay, into process groups. So we have the way the processes are grouped in there. So if you take a look at it again, you will discover that closing process groups, it also has two processes. So processes, all the 47 processes, they are grouped into 5. So you will have some processes under a particular process group. You have some other processes under another process group, like that, like that. So when you read the page 13, you will understand what I'm saying better. So that is that about process group and knowledge areas and processes. Now let's go further. Let's now talk about the 4 major constraints in project management. 4 major constraints in project management. 4 major constraints. Now, when you are given a project, let's say as an architect, you are giving a project of a duplex. When they tell you that, or someone just walks up to you and say, engineer, get me a building. I want a building. Get a house for me. Your first question will be, what type of house? If the person asks you, sew me a cloth as a fashion designer, your question will be, what type of cloth? What type of style? How do you want it? So that brings the first constraint to be scope. Scope is talking about the specification of a project. Scope is talking about the specification of a project, the dimension of a project, how a project should look like, what makes a project distinct, what distinguishes a project. That is where we have the scope of a project. Then another thing you'll be talking about the cost of that project. That is another important constraint. Then another thing we'll be talking about the schedule, the time, when will the project be ready. Don't forget, a project is a temporal endeavor. So there's no way you talk about the project without talking about time as a constraint or schedule. So we have time here. Okay? We have time here. And another thing we'll be talking about is having these 3 in mind, then how will the product be acceptable to the user? Then that is where we have quality. We have quality. So you may be asked to, depict this on a triangle, an equilateral triangle. You may have an equilateral triangle like this, and you may be asked, to talk about it. So this is an equilateral triangle. Apart from quality, the rest of the 3 may be anywhere. Scope S, cost C, and time C. Now, what is the relationship? Let's look at this side. This is side SC. All things being equal, the bigger a project, the more the cost. All things being equal. On this side, the bigger the project, when we are talking of scope, we are talking about the specification of the project, right? We still agree on that. All right. So the scope is a determinant of the cost. So if you are building a duplex, it's different from when you are building a shop or a room and parlor self-contained. It's different from a duplex. All things being equal. So it means line SC means the bigger the scope, the higher the cost. If you look at this area too, scope and time, this side, ST, the bigger the scope, the more time is to be spent on the project. Okay? The bigger the scope, the more the time. Now, if you look at line cost and time, that is where a little technicality comes into play, because they also have relationship. Anyway, when you want your project delivered faster than required, it means you should be expecting to spend more on that project. Some layman will say express work. Fine, express work. But why is it express? Because there is a need for the project manager to bring in more resources into the project so that the time of delivery will be reduced. And as he or she is bringing in more resources to the project, more resources means more costs. Maybe where you should use 3 laborers, you are now using 6. You should be sure that you will pay 6 of them. You will pay the 6 persons. As you are trying to reduce time, you are incurring costs. So there should be an agreement as regard the cost, the time of project delivery as far as project management is concerned. Don't forget, we are talking about the 4 major constraints, that is 4 major challenges or 4 major issues that will come up that a project manager needs to tackle effectively in the course of a project. Now we now have quality. We now have quality here at the center. We have quality here at the center. We have quality here at the center. And everything is pointing to quality. Everything is pointing to quality. Everything is pointing to quality. And what does it mean? It means automatically that, okay, before I tell you what it means, let me tell you the definition of quality. Quality could be defined as a state whereby set of inherent characteristics fulfills requirements. Set of inherent characteristics fulfilling requirements. And what requirement are we talking about? We are talking about the requirement of the user, the person using it. It must fulfill the requirement for which it was purchased for. Now, what this triangle is telling you is this: even if you are building 10-story building, it must fulfill requirement. That's why it's pointing to quality. If you are spending 10 billion or 10 naira, it must fulfill requirement. If you are spending 10 years or 10 days, it must fulfill requirement. So quality is like a striking balance that makes this triangle stand, meaning that it encompasses all phenomena to make the project a success. So today we have been able to look into the first class, talking about the definition of project management, talking about the technicalities in the definition, talking about it being a temporal endeavor, talking about the difference between products, services, and results. We've also talked today about project management as a definition on its own. Then we went into the differences between project, program, and portfolio. Then we went straight into the success pathways of project management, where we talked about the 10 knowledge areas, the 47 logical processes, the 5 process groups, and the 4 major project constraints. And we did not just stop there. We also went further to tell you what knowledge areas are. I listed the knowledge areas, and I told you the relationship between knowledge areas and process groups, how the 47 logical processes are unevenly distributed across the 10 knowledge areas. And I did not stop there. I also explained to you the relationship between logical processes and process groups, how the 47 logical processes are further grouped into 5. Vis-a-vis initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. And I did not just stop there. I also talked about the 4 major constraints: scope, that's the specification of the project, what differentiates the project from another project, the cost, the time, and the quality. And I represented them on an equilateral triangle and showed you the relationship between each of the sides: side SC, scope and cost; side ST, scope and time; side CT, cost and time. And I told you quality, which means the situation whereby set of inherent characteristics fulfilling requirements, how it strikes the balance and makes sure that at the end of the day, the project is acceptable. Yes, every one, I want to believe
At the end of this first class, you now have an idea of what project management is all about. We will meet again in the second class where we go deeper into the teaching of project management. Don't forget to tell others about ICSMP. We are good at what we do because we understand all it takes to make you a professional. I want to thank you for having me today. Once again, Adetayo Ireoluwa is my name for ICSMP. Thank you very much.